Welcome to Talking Good Games. Just finished. Wolverhampton Wanderers 3, West Ham United 0. In the race for 7th, well, we were lucky not to concede 7. Gonzo, what's your initial reaction?
My initial reaction is that something needs to be done. If there's funds waiting for the summer, then we need to try and spend some of them now. Defensively, we need reinforcements in midfield. I speak about midfield constantly. Midfield is a massive issue. Today, I mean, normally you'd look at a defence, think the defence needs the defence and midfield need options, and it didn't look like we had a striker anyway. Aside from that, the team looks pretty good. But why? There was just such a lack of technique. Before you go into the inquest of the goals and the way they were conceded and the set plays and all that stuff, right, and individuals, a real lack of technique. That's why when Nasri came in, it looked so good. Anderson had someone to play with. There's a basic lack of ball control and positional awareness and passing. And bearing in mind we're a football team, those three things are quite pivotal. And I looked at us and I thought, wow, we are poor. I'm not sure another 100 million would quite do it. Now, just let me get this straight here. I don't think we'll get relegated. I think we'll get the 9 points or whatever the 8 points we'll need between now and the end of the season. But we are not clever. This is not good at all. And there's some players. I keep saying it. I can't keep saying it. There's some players that have got to go, But I'm not sure Pellegrini's got the options.
Tom, what's your initial reaction? Full time just went 5 minutes ago. What are you thinking?
Yeah, a couple of things really. Obviously, listen to Gonzo's point there. I do think we've got a good side. I do, but the thing that I kept thinking was it's injuries, and I don't want to use that as an excuse. But we have our first 11 out. It's completely different because we do have them players with technique. So it's the squad's not good enough, not necessarily the team. But this whole injury thing needs to be sorted out because it's crippling us, and it's good players, and we've obviously got another one tonight, and maybe even another one as well with Fabianski. We don't know. He might have just carried on because he had to. We didn't really have a lot of choice. So yeah, and consistency is what it is, because the team wasn't too dissimilar to the team that beat Arsenal when we were waxing lyrical about how brilliant we were and the football was free flowing. We just can't do that consistently. And I said when Pellegrini came in, it was going to take time, because one of the hardest things I think sometimes to do in football is to completely change your philosophy and to go from what we were seeing last season under David Moyes, sort of a pragmatic approach, to all of a sudden playing expansive, pretty football. It's not easy. And that's one of the main reasons why these teams that sack Sam Allardyce, there's that little stat in there where a lot of teams, they sack Sam Allardyce, they go down. And it's not because Sam Allardyce is a tactical genius. It's because these teams decide they want to play better football, and it's not an easy change to make. So it was always going to take time, but I thought maybe second half of the season we'd see an improvement, but at the moment we're not. I do think injuries are a main factor in that. I really do. I have to say that, because I think if you throw the likes of Nasri in there, Balbuena, Creswell, I just think we look a different team. I think the squad players just aren't good enough. It's them that we need an upgrade on.
I think you two are being too nice, especially you, Tom. I think you're making excuses for Pellegrini here. Our manager got it wrong tonight. He set up wrong from the first minute. Every preview I've listened to, me and Gonzo talk about it, you cannot go up against Wolves' 3 midfield with just 2. He did just that, and what happened? They control midfield from start to finish. Half time come, we'll come on to that in a minute. Half time come, there's your opportunity to change it. What's he do? He puts out the same team, the same 11, the exact same formation that wasn't working for the first 45 minutes. And surprise, surprise, it didn't all of a sudden start working. To Bob Eminem, well, he can get fucked as well, because he just strolled around the pitch while he was on, and then all of a sudden we got a goal down and decides he's injured. I expected to see a fired up Arnautovic today. Well, Christ almighty. He's got bonus incentives in his contract for what? Wolves winning? Because that's the most he contributed to. He was awful out there from the start. I was watching him a lot. I was expecting to see something. Antonio was working his bollocks off up front. Now you can question his ability, of course. Gonzo's right. The technical ability is lacking a bit. Antonio's one of those players. But he was chasing everything. He was trying to win everything in the air, etc. Meanwhile, his strike partner pretty much stood in the middle circle for the whole first 45 minutes, watching him do it. And then you can see him moving his arms around. Not quite as dramatic as he normally does. He kept it contained a little bit today. He must have known people were watching him, but he still was humming and ahhing. He frustrated me today. Pellegrini got massively wrong. Now, I know Tom saying we've got injuries. Newcastle, I don't know if it's a full-time result. Just before we came on, Newcastle just went 2-1 up against Man City. That's what you do. You have a go against a club. We had no shots on target. I don't give a fuck who's injured. No shots on target in Premier League is unacceptable. That is crap. It doesn't matter who you played. It doesn't matter who you are. I expect teams to be having a shot. I think we had, up until the last 2 minutes of the game, we had one shot at goal completely, and it was Anderson's fluff shot in the first half somewhere. Rice had a shot at the end of the game, and someone else did that went wide. It's crap. You're never going to get anything from a game if you don't take shots. We were awful. We couldn't pass the ball. You know something? There was no effort in there tonight. We sacrificed the FA Cup. I lay that blame with the players. I still do blame the players tonight. There wasn't enough effort. I thought a few players were huffing and puffing, but they were just lacking it. I thought Snodgrass was working hard. I thought Antonio was working hard. They just didn't have the quality. But we're now out of the FA Cup, and you've got to think, well, what are we playing for? Gonzo says spend money. I actually say keep your money in your pocket, because what's the point of spending it now to go from 11th to 10th in the league? There's no point. Just keep your money till the summer. I don't want to say our season's over, but we'll look forward to the games individually, but as a whole, it pretty much is over. That Wolves side pissed all over us today, and we're lucky it was 3. It wasn't for Fabianski. That would have been extremely, extremely embarrassing. Right, we'll run through the highlights, and we'll talk more about the game after. 1 minute in, I'm not going to discuss this. Wolves should have had a penalty. Masuaku decided to bring Doherty down just inside the box, and then Johnny just went wide with a header. Wolves had a goal disallowed in Donker on the 35th minute, and then halftime Gonzo was 0-0. I mean, what were you thinking at halftime?
I thought we'd done well to keep it a 0-0, actually. And I was really thinking, I'm a firm believer in this technique. I've been fucking banging on about, I've been banging on about midfield for a long, long time now, and particularly this lack of technique that we have in it. Somebody on the forum said the difference between Wolves' ball winners in midfield and ours is that they can actually play the ball. They can play a killer ball as soon as they win it. That was a massive issue for us there. And I just thought, if there's just some way we can do something to change something to allow us to get into the game. Oh, we've done well to keep it a 0-0. I was sort of hopeful. I was hoping Arnautovic would spring into life at that point, or something would happen. But then you do look at the bench, and Tom is right. There was no one to come off the bench. I said it. That's why I changed my my prediction once I knew Nasri wasn't in. To me, it's a killer, because I actually thought in that first half Anderson was trying to do stuff. He looked the one creative. He must be looking around thinking, "What have I joined here?" No good at all. But I guess I was hopeful that something would happen, because we'd done well to keep it a 0-0, really.
Fabianski made 2 really good saves just after half time, but Tom, the inevitable probably happened. Wolves corner, in it came Sass with his header, first goal at the Molineux, and 1-0 Wolves.
Yeah, and fully deserved. I mean, I'm similar to Gonzo. I was actually reasonably happy at half time. I thought we've kept it to 0-0. We can build on that and come out a bit better in the second half. But I don't know what happened second half. We were dreadful, and that was fully deserved. And it's yet again another set piece goal. We just look so dodgy from set pieces constantly. And again, I don't know what it is, because they must be working on them, because we've conceded that many of them. We have to. Surely it's our biggest weakness, I would have thought. So, but clearly not. So it's one of them. Again, another set piece goal. No one in particular to blame, probably, on this occasion. It was fair play Wolves and fully deserved.
Then Pellegrini did his subs. I always call them Marmite. Well, on this occasion, I hated them. Even when I first seen him, I thought, what's he doing? 1-0 down, he brings on Pedro Obiang. Yes, that's exactly what we want to see, 1-0 down. Anyway, he brings him on for no ball, just because the scoreboards indicate different. He brings Carroll off for Obiang, and he does it a bit weird. But he basically takes off no ball for Obiang, so I'm thinking, okay, so we're sticking with 4-4-2 of some sort, even though it's not working, but never mind. Then he takes off our best crosser of the ball and puts on the guy who thrives on crosses. Makes sense to you? No, me neither. I was still a bit confused at this point, but I thought, well, we'll let it run. Zabaleta then brought down Jota, and I'll stick with this one. It wasn't a pen. It was a good tackle in the end by Zabaleta. And then Marko Arnautovic went down. Gonzo, all eyes on Marko. You said you were hoping he sprung into action. What did you make of his return today? He said he's back. Did you see him back?
No, I think Arnautovic has played a blinder. An absolute blinder. Probably shouldn't say what I'm about to say, but hey, there you go. it wasn't just incentivized, the contract, by the way. He does get a pay rise as well, and he got an additional year. A penny for David Sullivan's thoughts, actually, because they wasn't universal within that club to give an Arnautovic the pay rise, and Sullivan, I believe, went and did it anyway. And I just wonder what his thoughts were. We all said the fans don't give him one. You know, we all said it. Don't give him a pay rise. You can't do this. We even spoke on this video, Gio, whatever video we did. We've done quite a lot on the subject recently. And we said, you know, you cannot encourage this sort of thing because it sets a blueprint. And I tell you what, for him to get the additional year, the wage bonus, and then to tap out, to use a mixed martial arts phrase, to tap out when he did. It might be a genuine injury. I'm going to take some convincing on that. As I tell you what, I think he's played an absolute blinder. He got the extra year. He got the extra money. He played like he did not care. It was a massive thing, as I understand it. Pellegrini didn't want him to have the new contract either. So again, a penny for his thoughts. It's crazy. Caused a bit of friction between boardroom and that. I mean, and now look at it now. The club are in a far worse position, Gio. I know this is probably not a match reaction as such, but this is what I was thinking during the match. And the club are in a far worse position because if this happens, and that's how it's going to be for the rest of the season, his value hasn't gone up. His value will go down, and we've got him for another year until he's. We said this, we discussed it, that he's going to be injury prone, that he's going to get worse, his value is going to go down. We discussed all of this. It's not hindsight. Why it happened? It's a bad move. It's bad for West Ham. It's really bad for the club. And I mean, it was just typical.
Tom, what did you make of Arnautovic's performances?
As far as his performance is concerned, it's exactly the same as Gonzo. Yeah, he didn't particularly look interested to me. Like you said, you could tell just by looking at the work Antonio was getting through that Arnautovic wasn't on that level whatsoever at all. He looked disinterested, and that's a concern. Even I didn't expect that. I was in the camp with you guys. I wanted him to go in the end. I don't think you want to set a precedent to other players and show them that, you know, this is how you get a better deal out of West Ham, or this is how you get a move away from the club. But it was best just to let him go. But even so, I'm going to disagree with Gonzo there. I don't even think he'd feign injury. I think that is rotten West Ham luck again. I am being a bit kind tonight, aren't I think? But I do. I don't think a player would do that. I think it's rotten luck. It's typical West Ham that we'd go and give somebody a pay rise and they're out. Hopefully it's not too serious. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of it just yet. But yeah, it don't bode well in terms of his performance tonight because, yeah, that weren't good enough at all.
I don't think he was feigning an injury either, really, but it's just his performance was crap. He might as well have just gone off injured. We didn't miss him when he went off at all. He was doing nothing when he was on the pitch. I actually genuinely felt sorry for Antonio. And I've seen people say, we need to get Antonio off, get Jimenez on. But what? The guy's running his nuts off up there. Eminem is standing there doing literally fuck all. Honestly, it was frustrating me so much because as Gonzo said, he's pulled a blinder. That guy doesn't care what happens between now and then in the season. Now he's got his pay rise. He can get out in the summer if he wants to. He's had a gentleman's agreement, etc., etc. And he's one thing he has achieved tonight in Arnautovic. He's made 35 million look like a good price. Actually, he actually at the time I thought no, it's too cheap. But actually now I'm starting to think I kind of wish we took it because Pellegrini wanted Maxi Gomez in the end. So Pellegrini has his heart on getting that striker and that striker out. That striker doesn't leave, so he can't go get the one he now wants. It's almost teasing someone. It's like saying, do you want this? Yeah. Do you want this? Yeah. Well, he can't have it anymore. That's what's happened to Pellegrini. So he's dug Pellegrini. He dug Arnautovic out in the press conference yesterday a little bit. He had a little bit of a dig at Arnautovic, a sly one. Refused to comment on his contract at Wimbledon. Now I know a few websites that are friends with the board are saying, it's because he was huddled around the corridor. I don't buy that because you could easily have still said something. He chose to say, I'm not talking about it. And he waited for another question. And the next question was about Arnautovic. And he said, right, that's it. I'm out of here. So I think Pellegrini had two digs at Arnautovic. So I'm not surprised he's a bit pissed off. But what options he got when he's got Donkey Carroll to come on? He ended up subbing off the can't get away for the want-away striker. That's Pellegrini's options. Gonzo, you were raising your hand there about...
Yeah. Just feigning. I didn't say he was feigning injury. And I need to make myself clear here because otherwise we're going to have a ton of comments. And I want to make myself really clear. I'm not saying he had no injury, but I certainly think he was less injured than Fabianski. And that's really my point. When I say tap out, he got an excuse. There was a little thing. I'm not saying a niggle, but bearing in mind what he's put the club through and what he's done and the way he's acted, I expect him to play through that niggle. I want to see a bit of testicular fortitude from him. I want to see something that for him to say, actually, no, I'm going to show them how good I am. I'm going to limp through. Let's be fair. Already this season, he's played through limps. But this season, he strolls around, he plays through it. But today, he got his knock for it. No. That's it. I don't believe it was as bad as he made out. And if he'd have had Fabianski's mindset, it probably wouldn't have affected the game. They were that much better than us in so many positions. But he needed to prove something to the fans. And that's what I mean. I thought we took the easy option out. Will he technically have an injury? Yes. Are we looking at something he couldn't have played with? No.
I agree with that. I agree with that one. I will agree with that one. He's made a mug of Sullivan. He's made a mug of West Ham fans. He's made a mug of the West Ham media department as well. Who cares about them, really? But nobody. But they're the ones that puts this video up after Wimbledon with, I am back. Don't listen to anyone, blah, blah, blah. Well, fuck off, Arnautovic, because if that's what you're going to serve up, I wish you did go. Anyway, it was 2-0. 79 minutes in. This was coming. Free kick came in, and Declan Rice got beaten to it by Jimenez. Gonzo was deserved, though. 2-0 Wolves.
Yeah, absolutely. What can you say? What can you say? Again, they showed the way. It was from the same side as well, wasn't it, of course? So, this time Declan Rice, he was beaten to it. You just wonder how, like Tom said, what they're working on. Tom alluded to the fact that they're working on it during the week. Are they? I mean, maybe they're not. I think we're being awfully presumptuous here. I do think that Pellegrini is so strong in the ethos and the way he wants to play that maybe he's one of those managers that don't actually worry about defending. That's all well and good. I've got a lot of time for that ethos, actually, believe it or not. But if you're going to do that, then you need a certain type of player. I actually only thought we had one of them on the pitch today that would play in that way that Pellegrini. The moment you can't have, let's be fair, Pellegrini would probably love to. He said in the week he would love to play Anderson, Lanzini and Nasri in the same team. I'm guessing with his choice of forward up front, he would love a team of technical players, which is absolutely great. But the moment you don't have that, and he doesn't have that at the moment, and I do think the board need to step in and do, if they're going to retain Pellegrini and he is the long-term future, they need to give him the tools now, right? But the moment you don't, then you really should be working on defensive stuff. I don't think, in a one-on-one contest, I will back Declan Rice but he needs to be coached in positionally. Are they man marking or are they zonal marking? He needs to be coached positionally so he knows what his man is. If he is given clear instructions, I'll back him every time. So there's clearly something wrong tactically and on the training ground.
It was 3-0, Tom. I mean, it was game, set, match already. This was just final nail in the coffin, really. There was a £45 million striker on the pitch. It wasn't R1. It was Raul Jimenez. A classy little finish from the guy. He took the piss out of our defence today.
He did. He was brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I just want to quickly just say sorry to Gonzo because I misinterpreted what he said earlier. Then
no. Speak frankly. Don't apologise. Speak frankly, mate.
Yeah. But as for that third goal, I'm going to have to do it again. We're going to have to criticise Bonner again. Where was he? He was 10 yards in front of Diop. What's he doing? He was in no man's land. It was. It's getting comical. I just don't. We've got to put someone else there. Put Adrian there. Do anything. He's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know where he was. So it was easy for him. But yeah, fair play to Raul Jimenez. He is a classy operator. We was linked with him a few years ago, weren't we? And I weren't really keen, if I'm honest. But I'd certainly have him now because he's far better than what Arnautovic was today. Far better than what we've got. So fair play to the geezer.
Tom, 3 goals for Wolves, 3 points for Wolves, and an embarrassment for West Ham. Where's it gone wrong?
Well, yeah, I gave us a bit of a cop out earlier, didn't I, saying about the injuries and stuff. But I'm gonna stick with that. It's difficult. Wolves are a good side. It is another missed opportunity, I know, to go 7th, but I think that is a bit above where we are at the moment. I don't think any of those teams, sort of the 4 teams that are competing for that top 7, if any of them had the amount of injuries we had, they'd be suffering as badly, if not more than us. Like I said, the squad there's just too many players in that squad that aren't good enough. The likes of Masuaku, Ogbonna, Obiang when he comes on. Andy Carroll's not a good enough option anymore to have off the bench. Hernandez is finished. It's as simple as that. We've got too much dead wood that we really now need to clear in the summer. And the good thing is I've full faith in Pellegrini and Julios to do the job that needs to be done. And I think there'd be a big clearing of the decks. and I think we can bring more players in, and I think we'll get better and better and better. I think this is, like we say, this is a project that's going to take time. It weren't going to happen in one season. I think staying up this season and playing much better football as we had is about what we could have hoped for, really, despite spending £100 million. I think it's next season when we'll see the true benefits.
We're not discussing the project, though, Tom. We're not discussing it. So you were talking about the 90 minutes we just seen up with Molineux. Do you think Pellegrini did as much as he could or as best as he could, given the personnel he had available?
No, I mean, yeah, in hindsight, yeah, I agree with you that a 3-man midfield would have been the way to go, and it does look that way. But we've had some great results playing that 4-4-2 against teams that have played a 5-man midfield. So I can't really use that.
Gonzo, what about yourself? Where's it gone wrong?
Yeah, just to pick up on that, I do sort of understand what Tom's saying there, yeah, because I'm a big believer in the midfield three as well, and the fact that can outnumber them. But I just thought we did get the ball in positions to attack, but there were times when Snodgrass's passing was just totally awful. I don't mean just to pick on him. So we got it out to the right wing, but then what happened? Nothing. There were times we got it to Antonio. Yes, he worked hard. And I think Antonio is a hell of an asset when he has more technical players around him. When there's only one technical player on the pitch who's the other side of it, it's no good. There were times when Antonio just fell over. He constantly, there was one point he fell over. You could see he was falling over 7 meters before because he was stumbling and falling over. Noble just kept on giving the ball away. Noble gave the ball away at the very, very start of the game in our own half. Masuaku again, you can keep going on. They were so desperately wanting to do something. I thought we were actually better down the left actually at times than Masuaku and Anderson axis in the first half in terms of attacking because they had a bit more technique. They were trying so desperately hard, Zabaleta and Snodgrass, to make something happen and do the overlaps and the underlaps. It just wasn't happening. So I do think actually the formation could have worked with more technical players in it. I think. But it didn't, and I think the difference is when it's not, then you have to change something, and it just seems completely. I don't mean now because we don't really have to play us for it, but you just know there's never a time when he's going to play free at the back, even if he needs to. But I think there's something bigger going on here, and I think this does impact the 90 minutes. Okay, I'll be a bit tenuous here, but stay with me. Okay, when I was at work today, I spoke to a guy who's basically who's going for an appraisal at work, right? And I said, how'd your appraisal go? He went, no. He said, not good. He said, basically, the other guy got the promotion that he wanted. And I said, all right, that's a shame. He said, yeah. He said, the other guy really annoys him because he smokes and he goes out for 15. Basically, he gets 5 or 6 breaks during the day that are all 15 minutes. And he's constantly on the web, on the internet looking for a new job as well. He said, he's not as committed as me, don't work as hard as me, yet he's got the pay rise. Now, that's just a little story. What you've got to remember with footballers, they are just people that go to work. Yes, the money's great, but they still work in a group dynamic. Now, they'll have seen Marko Arnautovic throw an absolute hissy fit, a big old strop, and then get what he wants, get the pay rise, get the extra year. And some of them, that might not sit comfortably, they might not want to do that. But what does that do to the harmony in that, I say the office, but you know what I mean, in the workplace, in the training ground? I'm not so sure if that's a happy place to work at the moment. And Pellegrini's got a little bit of the ump with Sullivan. I just wonder if that doesn't help. I think we can get away with these players missing when it's a happy ship and they're all happy campers. I don't think it is at the moment. It's not damaged beyond repair, but I think it might go some way to explain Bournemouth, explain Wimbledon, and explain now as well as the injuries. Maybe there's just a lot of factors going into it.
Pellegrini, in one of his press conferences, someone said to him, is all the players happy? Pellegrini says, I have a lot to deal with internally. He didn't say yes, but he certainly did not say no. He did not put any fires out. He just said, I have to deal with it. There's lots of issues. Every club has issues to deal with or something like that. He was very, very broad, but he certainly did not say that no one had an issue. I think Pellegrini got it wrong. Now, I like Pellegrini, I'm a big fan of Pellegrini. I agree with Tom about the project section. I'm talking about the 90 minutes at Molineux. That was suicide. To go 4-4-2 against Wolves is suicide. Tom's right. It is good to see 4-4-2 at home to Cardiff, not away to Wolverhampton Wanderers. There's a complete difference. When we did the preview, quite often, me, Gonzo, and the guests will sit in not slag off, but we'll look at the other team and think there's not much about them really. We don't really fancy them. Wolves, no, we sat there praising their team left, right, back to front. We were praising them. Good players, good players, good players, good players, good manager, play good football, hard to beat, etc. We turned up today, and I remember saying this to Gonzo after we got beaten by Wolves at home back at the start of the season. I said to Gonzo, Pellegrini is trying to play Man City tactics with West Ham players, and he's done the same again tonight. He's got West Ham players, and he's trying to play like he's got David Silva in midfield. He's trying to play like he's got Sergio Aguero up front. Well, you don't. You've got Mikel Antonio. It's not the same. But he's took the Man City blueprint with him, and he's sticking to it. He's stubborn. We know he's a stubborn manager. But to go 4-4-2, the reason our passes weren't sticking, the reason I thought Noble and Rice were struggling, because there's two of them in there. Wolves players only have to pass it 10 yards to a teammate because there's three of them in there. There's not that much distance between each of them. Pass. Rice and Noble were quite far apart. And then you go all the way to Snodgrass. There's a good 30-yard pass. To go from man to man, it's a 30-yard pass on. We could not string passes together. Snodgrass got booked in the first half because he had to chase the third centre midfielder. One guy had it. Rice went to him. He gave it to the next one. Noble went to him. Gave it to the next one. Boom! He was running out our defence. There was no space. Snodgrass had to come back and foul him outside the box. You could see Snodgrass go over to Pellegrini and talk about something. What I don't know about. Put money on it. It was about the fact that we were getting overrun in midfield. Bet Janovic had money on it as well. I think he also had money on there. Wolves winning. But I don't know. But anyway, individual performances, Tom. I'm going to say praise. There's only one player worthy of praise tonight. But criticise. There's 10 other to choose from. Take your pick.
Yeah, well, I'll praise Zabaleta as well. I think Zabaleta played well today. I do. And that last-ditch tackle that, as we say, wasn't a penalty was absolutely class. That was pure experience. Brilliant. So him, fantastic again. And Fabianski. I mean, sometimes I don't know where we'd be without him. And that's, as we say, I'll just hope he isn't. I hope he hasn't got some kind of injury because he did look bad. It was his wrist, weren't it? So, just got to pray to God, really, that he's not going to spend any time out because he's something else. He was fantastic tonight. And that's a sad indictment in itself that when you lose 3-0 and your goalkeeper's getting man of the match, that tells the story, don't it? Criticise, everybody else, really, as far as I'm concerned, other than Antonio for his work rate. I do think he worked. Thought Snodgrass worked, as you said. And it's just the same ones digging them out again. Declan Rice, I don't think Declan Rice had a bad game at all by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it was one of his best games. That's about it really, mate. But Fabianski and Zabaleta, they're the only ones that come out with any kind of credit.
Who was your biggest letdowns, Tom?
Biggest letdown?
Yeah.
That's Arnautovic without a shadow of a doubt. It's got to be because, as we say, he didn't do anything and I was expecting a reaction. We was all expecting a reaction. And he needed to, really, knowing that we're playing Liverpool at home next. He really needed to. He's probably not going to play anyway, is he? He's injured. So, but yeah, he was terrible for me.
Gonzo, players, your choice?
I'll go with a letdown just on Arnautovic. I think we've been well and truly stitched up. And make no mistake about it. I'd say I do agree about Pellegrini's made some tactical mistakes today, and as I've said, I do think he's made some mistakes on the training ground as well by not preparing us well. But I think he's been stitched up with the Arnautovic situation, and I think us as fans have. I really do. I think we have been stitched up. Really have. I find it an absolutely disgraceful situation. I really do, and that was some real. That was real team spirit. That's a real team player thing to do for Fabianski. He's a goalkeeper who injured his wrist. I mean, don't have to. It's an important part of goalkeeping, right? And for him to say, nah, if I go off, we're down to 10 men. We need that. We need Hernandez on. That's good for him. You know what? He can tap the badge. He really only been here 5 minutes. He can tap the badge. Because I tell you what, he's put the team and the club first there. So fair play to him. About the technique thing, you can have. I think Zabaleta tried hard. There was a lot. I thought players did try hard. I didn't think it was a Wimbledon performance because, as I say, I thought at half time it was all right. You can have a Zabaleta in the team. You can have Declan Rice's in the team. You can have a Snodgrass in the team. What you can't do is have 9 players lacking basic ball control and technique, and that's what we had today. You can't only have one. Did Felipe Anderson have his best game? No, but there was nobody else on his wavelength there. I mean, there was just nobody else to play the 1-2s with. There were times when he did stuff, flicking it over players' heads, nutmegging and stuff like that, and he would do his little bit, and then there was nowhere left to go. He can't dribble. He's not that good. He's not Messi. Who is, apart from Messi, obviously? He couldn't dribble past 6 players. He did his bit, beat his man, and then there was no one there. There was a point, Snodgrass, I think, put on a lovely cross. There was no one there in the second half. There was nobody there. There was no one making the run, and well, you know, that's just a little bit worrying. There are so many players that you could pick out, but yeah, I mean, Arnautovic was the bad one. I mean, there was a lot of poor performances for Snodgrass. Was technically very, very poor today, and I know he can do better.
I thought Fabianski was unbelievable. He was the second best player on the pitch behind Jimenez. It would have been 6-7 without him. Some of his saves, the first 2 in the second half, I was thinking, you know, sooner or later they're going to beat him. Then it was a resulting corner they scored to him. I thought, oh, here we go. Then, like you said, as soon as he went down, I thought, no, this is the worst thing possible. You know, we could go down to 10 men as well. And like you said, he got up, you could see him, he's clearly in pain. Fabianski's not one of these faker type people. He's a complete polar opposite to Adrian. Adrian would have rolled over to the corner flag if that was him. He would have touched the corner flag holding his wrist, I think. But Fabianski just lies there, gets up, then you can see him trying to get on with it. Zabaleta, I don't think he did bad, but I tell you what, I wouldn't have minded seeing Ryan Fredericks come on in the second half with that pace down the right hand side. We were just lacking anything going forward, and I thought Fredericks did okay against Wimbledon, and it's nothing Zabaleta did wrong. I just think we could have done with that little bit of oomph trying to create something a little bit different, because our subs meant all we did was take off 4-4-2 formation players and put on 4-4-2, and I'm just sitting there thinking, what are you doing? You know, like, it's not working the first time. It's not going to work the second time or the third time. Change something. At least put on the pacey right back or something. But no, we just swap like for like again. Our defence, Ogbonna and Diop, do they even talk? I'm starting to think they don't even speak to each other. Do they hate each other or something? They're never in line with one another. If a striker runs from Ogbonna to Diop, he's free. No one says, Diop, mate, there's someone behind you. We need to swap markers. Nothing happens. The communication between them two is non-existent. I don't think they chat. It's just simple as that. Masuaku's dreadful. He should have gave away a penalty. They kept going for him. But in the end, he's quite lucky. In the second half, Wolves decided, actually, they're a bit shit all over the pitch. We don't have to just keep going for Masuaku. We can just go right down the fucking middle of the park. Don't worry about that bit. The middle, I thought Rice was average. He wasn't horrendous, but he wasn't fantastic. But I feel a bit sorry for him. I think when things aren't going right, I think sometimes it gets to Rice. I think sometimes he gets a bit frustrated because he is on Anderson's wavelength. The problem is, he's in the last 2/3 of the pitch and Anderson's in the front 2/3, so they can't really link up. Rice can give him the ball, but then that's as far as it goes. And I think Rice tends to get a little bit, because at the end of the game, he took a shot from 20 or 5 yards. When does Rice ever do that? So you can tell he was getting a bit grumpy. Noble, Pellegrini's favourite sub to make. Losing, Noble comes off every single game, but it wasn't happening out there. However, I do think him and Rice were thrown under the bus by Pellegrini today. Go back and watch our preview if you don't believe me. We spoke about it in preview and we said if you start against Wolves like that, they will not cope. Snodgrass, Bill and Antonio, lots of huff and puff, just not the end product, unfortunately. And Anderson, I would have liked to have seen him moved off the wing, if anything. I thought he's too far out. Why? Like Gonzo said, he's the only player that can do something. So why is he all the way out on the left wing? Because he's only got 1 or 2 players he can play with. Get him off there. Just put him in the middle of the pitch so he can link up with whoever he wants to. So he can go stand next to Declan Rice if he wants, knowing that he's going to get the ball. Then he can turn and run so that he can link up with whoever's on the right. But he's stuck out there on the left. And at one point in the second half, he was on the right, but I think he ran over there himself to try and get the ball. And I thought, he was shackled today, Anderson. He was shackled by the tactics. M&M can fuck off. And the subs, well, they didn't really do anything, did they? Carroll, Obiang, Hernandez. What's the point? I think he was making subs for the sake of doing something. There's a reason. While I said at halftime I'd like to have seen him do something, I was thinking, what can he do, really? I would have changed formation, but in terms of personnel, there wasn't much options for him. And it took us to go 1-0 down before he did something. And at that point, I think he was thinking, I've got to roll the dice because it's not working. I think he brought them on because he felt he had to, rather than because he wanted to. And that's where it starts to fall down. Anyway, that's it from us. Gonzo, is there any final words from yourself?
Yeah, I think just it's not the end of the world. I do believe that when Pellegrini gets Ederson, Lanzini, Nasri, gets those more technical players in, when he solves the situation at striker, we're going to have, when Balbuena comes back, when Cresswell's there, people might say, crikey, it's never going to happen. But I think even a Jack Wilshere in there, helps. We didn't see Jack when the team was playing well, and arguably he's not playing well now. But when he can get 3 technical players in that team, we'll start to see some lovely football again. And I do think the era of Pellegrini has a lot better to come. It's not the end of the world, but this Arnautovic situation has been, and I can't think of another words. I'm going to say the words in my head. I'm thinking I don't want to say it, but it's a bit cancerous. It's a bad thing to have in the club. I don't know what's going on there, but it's not healthy for the club. It's not healthy for the manager and the owner relationship. And it's not healthy for us fans because we start arguing amongst ourselves about it as well. I think that's a bit of an issue for us at the moment. But you know what? Don't worry about it. Things will get better, just not in the next game when we face Liverpool.
Tom, what's your final words?
Just hopefully Balbuena comes back as soon as possible, because just the point that you made about the communication between Ogbonna and Diop. Do you notice how much worse Diop looks without Balbuena? He really does. He needs that leader alongside him, and Ogbonna's not that bloke. So it's just not a good mix having those two together. It's as simple as that. So we need him back. Could be as low as 12th tomorrow, which is obviously a disappointment. Liverpool to come, that could be 4 defeats on the bounce. First time we've done that since the beginning of the season. So it looks a bit doom and gloom, but you never know. This is West Ham, and we've been winning the games we arguably shouldn't be this season. So yeah, fingers crossed we can get back to winning ways, because at the moment it looks a bit depressing, don't it?
There's 2 days left of transfer window. What I said to Gonzo earlier, I think we should just keep the money. I do think that, but if there's a couple of loan signings that can be made, I think we need to go out and use that market. I didn't really want to see Gary Cahill, but I'll tell you what, Ogbonna's made me want Gary Cahill. I don't know why you're laughing. He genuinely has. At the start of the window, we were linked with him. We said, nah, we don't want this guy here. He's old, etc. But I'll tell you something. I would genuinely rather see Gary Cahill against Liverpool than watch another 90 minutes of fucking Ogbonna. It's got to the point, I'm at breaking point, watching Ogbonna play and Masuaku. They can't play together. They're both crap. It's just, Mo Salah occupies that position. He goes down easy. Never mind without Masuaku chipping away at his heels as he has done the last 2 games. There's a penalty coming for Liverpool on Monday night, and it will be Masuaku that concedes the bloody thing. But, we're being linked with a couple of players tonight. Been linked with John Fleck, but we've also been linked with Yuri Tielemans, the Monaco centre midfielder. Now we're talking about missing a bit of technical ability, etc. That's one player that'll bring it. Anyway, we'll try and do a transfer show tomorrow and or Thursday, talking about the latest transfer rumours, because if there's one thing that's going to come of this, hopefully it's a knee-jerk reaction in the transfer window over the next 48 hours. And I'll tell you what, I would not blame Pellegrini if he slapped a price tag on Arnautovic's head and said, this is the price, come and get him, 40 million, 30 million, whatever. Here he is. He's forget his contract. You can have him if you want him. I would not blame him at all. But anyway, join us tomorrow night for a transfer talk. We'll keep you up. There's quite a few rumours, which we'll discuss in that one as well. That's been Gonzo, that's been Tom. We've been Hammershat. West Ham have not been West Ham. Wolves were Wolves, though. 3-0 Wolves. Very deserved. Just like I said, after Wimbledon won, final words, and I'll speak for these two as well. Wolves were fantastic tonight. If you're a Wolves fan tuning into this, you were superb, especially in the second half. The football you play is actually the football we want to see under Pellegrini. Raul Jimenez is a striker we'd want to see of that ilk under Pellegrini, and your centre midfielders we want to see under Pellegrini. You've got a fantastic team and you played fantastic tonight, but I just think we made it a little bit too easy for you in the end. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, leave your comments below. Myself, Gonzo and others will be having a look through them and see what you thought of the game. Do you blame Pellegrini? Tom gives him a pass because of the injuries. I lay this one at Pellegrini's door just as much as the players. And subscribe if you're new around here, and check out the other channel. The link is in the description. We're not too far off 4,000, so go over there and subscribe and get us to 4,000, and we'll see you tomorrow night.